Good morning, City Church. I hope you're all doing okay. My name's Jack. I'm a member of the prayer team, and I'm going to be leading your devotion this morning. I don't know how your quarantine has been. Mine has been quite slow. I personally have had quite a lot of time for reflection as the busyness of life, my time with friends has kind of all been stripped back. I'm sure for many of you maybe the same has happened. Although maybe not if you now have the joyous responsibility of homeschooling your children. But in this time, as I've been reflecting, there's been one particular verse I've been reflecting on, and that's John 15, verse 4. And it says this: "Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, so neither can you unless you abide in me." In other translations, such as the NIV, the word abide is swapped for remain, but I suggest it still captures much of the same essence. Because what's really hit me and what I've been challenging myself on is, what does it look like to really abide in the love of God? In particular with regards to how I pray. And about a year ago, I remember I read this biography of an evangelist called Wigglesworth. He greatly valued prayer, so much so that he spent about 3 hours a day praying. And my initial reaction was, how on earth can you spend 3 hours a day praying? What would you even pray about? But as I've been reflecting on what it means to abide in God, I've been taken back to a book I read a while ago by C.S. Lewis called The Four Loves. Quite early on in the book, C.S. Lewis distinguishes between two types of pleasures. The first being a pleasure which comes from having a desire or craving filled. For example, maybe you've gone out for your hour of exercise each day, and when you come home, you need that drink of water, just to quench your thirst. And it's as you do drink, and your thirst is quenched, you get a pleasure. But maybe later in the day, if you drank that same cup of water and you weren't thirsty, you wouldn't get that same pleasure. And then the second type of pleasure is appreciative. And this comes from appreciating something in its own right. For example, when you listen to music or you go on a walk in nature and you just take it all in. And these two types of pleasure, C.S. Lewis says, foreshadow two types of love. The first being need love, which is often seen in the type of relationship between a parent and a child. As the child is dependent on their parent, they come to their parent for their needs to be filled. And the second type of love is appreciative. This requires nothing of someone. It is dependent not on what the person can give, but who the person is. And while neither love is better or worse, they are distinct from one another. I've been reflecting on how often, for me, I find it really easy to come to God just with what I need, to come to Him just with my lists. And that's right, especially in times like this when there's so much going on. Because the nature of humanity is such that we will always be dependent on God. And it is God's joy to answer our prayers. But I have been asking myself how often I actually come to Him to enjoy who He is, not just what He can give me. How much of my prayer life is speaking about me, and how much of it is speaking about Him and His glory. C.S. suggests that with our relationship with God, need love is crying to Him from our poverty, whereas appreciative love is saying we give thanks for your great glory. Appreciative love gazes, holds its breath, and rejoices that such a wonder could even exist. So as I've been thinking over what would it look like to remain or to abide more in God's love, I've been challenged by, well, what does my time look like with God? How much of it am I just coming to Him looking for my needs to be filled, and how much of it am I coming to Him just looking to appreciate Him for who He is? So I'd encourage you today, as you think and you reflect and you pray and read your Bibles, yes, be thinking about how this verse or this chapter or passage speaks to me, but also just be thinking about, what does it say about my God? How can I rejoice and just appreciate Him for who He is beyond just what He can give you? And I think maybe that would help us to go deeper in abiding in His love.